Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite dark sorcerer, and today I'd like to kind of talk about why you won't find most of the satanic organizations out there who are willing to tell you the truth. Okay? Why modern Satanism has become lazy. When we get into satanic groups on social media, we see that everybody has these typelet rules: no publication, no bullying, all these types of rules, but yet they themselves do not follow them. Why? Okay. I've even had people look at me and say that Anton Zandalavay's church was the first official satanic organization. Okay. This is a bold-faced lie. Okay. It is a bold-faced lie. Even when you get into more modern day traditions like the Joy of Satan or the Brotherhood of Satan, you get into the TST, the Satanic Temple. Okay. A lot of these groups are just in it for popularity and numbers. They're in it for the bad guy badge, as Anton so colorfully put it. Okay. And not one of these groups back up the history that they so claim to have, okay, within their doctrines. I've looked at literally, how should I say this? The Embassy of Lucifer, run by Turk Suzej. His demonic Bible was magnificent, especially with the Thelema system. Very, very potent magic right there, especially with the invocations and evocations. You have Anton Zandalavay's satanic rituals, even his satanic Bible, magnificently written. The Satanic Witch, a lot of psychological warfare going on there. Very powerful, especially if you take the time to draw out their time clock chart. And then you have the more recent addition to their established norms, the Satanic Warlock. That's right, the Satanic Warlock. Now, this book is one that I found interesting in itself. It literally founded on actual applications of psychology, seduction, the alchemy aspects from Azazel. Okay, cosmetics. You get into the Lilith applications of succubus or succubi. Same exact thing. The tempter, the temptress. The same old BS. Okay, but it was a good. Still a good book with a lot of great wisdom. But again, no real history, no real facts of their background or the background of Satanism. Okay, so why is it that so many groups fear the truth? They claim to be about the truth, to be about individualism, but when you get into them, it's really not. It's the same BS. Well, let's take a look at some of this. Patricia and Lionel Fanthorpe wrote a book called, if I remember correctly, it's called Demon and Demonolatry. No, Satanism and Demonolatry. I'm looking at it from right here, kind of diagonal. It's on my bookshelf over there. I should have actually gotten it when I was up and around, but I didn't. So that's on me. So, and then you have, let's go with the Satanic Scare. Okay, book. Two books that are right there on the same shelf. So just about a couple books away from each other. Very good books. to read. Patricia and Lionel Fanthorpe really went into details within archaeology, going as far back as the Paleolithic era. And they didn't just stick to one portion of the world. They went from Egypt, Greek, Roman, Middle Eastern, Asian communities, India, but also South American and North American traditions. Okay. Within, how should I say this? Not only historical accuracy and facts, but they also went through mythology and pulled out the actual beings, the spiritual beings. Okay. I highly recommend that book by Lionel and Patricia Fanthorpe. It's called Satanism and Demonolatry. Look it up. You can get it on Amazon and eBay. Very, very good book. I highly recommend it. Okay. Now, the Satanic Scare book was actually written after the Satanic Panic. That's more modern. And these individuals really go through a lot of things from the Ouija board, the talking board, to Dungeons and Dragons, the role playing game, and just about everything that people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about really believe is a part of Satanism and not a cult. Okay? But instead, these people, these types of hypocrites that write these books are either coming from a Christian background and not an actual practitioner of the occult. you know, they wouldn't recognize the difference. They would not know the difference between a cult and the occult. So you can't really blame them on that. But still, they did have a lot of information from the founder of Set, the Church of Set, the first Church of Satan, which is out of Connecticut. This was actually done, created by, I believe it was Laura LeVay, Anton's first daughter. And then you have the Werewolf Radio, which was actually done by his other daughter. So, which basically leaves our son to just basically, you owe me. My father was the first family. Yeah, this is like a president saying, "Well, you owe me because I was your president for a short time." Wow. You know, this is what I'm talking about here. These idiots. But everybody today in Satanism claims that Anton Zandaleve was the first to establish a satanic order. That's a bold-faced lie. It's like Crowley, people claiming that Crowley was this most powerful beast incarnate. You know, you weren't there. You didn't know this shit. Okay, you didn't do your homework on the man. You only read his a book or two. Okay, and even Hans Holzer, for an example, he wrote a book on mostly pagan stuff. But when you get to chapter 15, pursuing different paths, wizards, warlocks, and demonolatry, it was a pretty good chapter. But the one that I want to speak on a little bit is the one that came after that, chapter 16, the dark side of satanic groups. And what's sad here is he mostly publicized around Anton LaVey's practices, no one else's. I mean, he did bring up Mr. Guthrie's cult. He did bring up the Cincinnati Enquirer and a few other things that involve the Church of Satan in the first family of that specific tradition. Now, what's interesting though is he did also bring up a Satanist that actually had a coven, okay, a satanic coven, and I'm going to talk on this as well. And this was actually out of Toledo, Ohio, okay, and it was founded by Herbert Sloan. And his satanic organization predates Anton Zandaleve's The Church of Satan by at least 20 years. That's 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. So, for all these modern day Satanists that have these false ideals, you may want to do your homework. Okay, because I'm about to blow your fucking hat, dick off like crazy here. Okay, the Knights of the Black Circle, run by Ricky Cusa or Casso, and also known as the Acid King, Northport, Long Island, 1984. In February 1896, Wilder, Kentucky, and Greencastle, Indiana. Okay, in Kentucky, there was a woman's body that was found. Okay, completely headless. Now, these two individual men were tried for beheading this woman, and it got kind of eerie because of the fact that they claim to be listening to Satan. Okay, which makes it a satanic coven. Okay, and in a satanic rite in the slaughterhouse is where this supposedly took place. Now, her body was found on a desolate road in Kentucky. But she was originally from Greencastle, Indiana. Okay, and this became known as the Wrath of Satan. Okay, today it is run by the Haunt Bobby McKay's Music World nightclub. Okay, this is where this actually took place, way back in the 18th century, the late 18th century. North Massa uh, Equa. I probably just butchered that name, but it's all right. Dubbed the Devil's Worship House. Okay, Black Sunday 2006. However, 1927, a diary was found in a basement where a woman who wrote this diary claimed to be associated with a cult that performed animal sacrifice, sexual abuse, as they quote and unquote said in the Satanic Panic. Okay, and the woman's name that wrote the book was called Christina. No last name. So you can't really go into the name and try to figure out, okay, was this an actual person or was it not? But this took place in a Long Island cult. Okay. Now, this is not the first time you see Long Island being the center of occultism. Okay. But you've also got Ladish, Iraq. Okay. 1927 to 2021, the Kurdish Yazida, okay, or Yazidi, not really sure how that's pronounced, was considered to be a religious cult that, how should I say, were known for summoning Melech Taurus, the equivalent of Satan in Hebrew. Okay, the in ancient Greece, however, I found these two kind of intermingling because of the fact that it's heavily influenced by the JCI, the Judo Christian Institution. Number one, even today, the group known as ISIS is singling out this particular Ladish, this Kurdish Yazidi group. Um, but I found this one kind of interesting as well because number one, you got Islam, an Islamic extreme group targeting a satanic cult, but also other Christian factions. Pergamon, ancient Greece, also known as the Pergamon altar, aka Satan's throne. Book of Revelations, chapter 2, verse 12, for an example. Okay, prime example right there. This goes all the way back to ancient Greece. Okay, again, a satanic organization that, in this case, a satanic community that predates Anton Zandelavay's The Church of Satan. Okay, Victoria, British Columbia, 1950s to 1980s. The counseling session done by a psychiatrist on a customer, a patient known as Michelle. Okay. She and her psychologist wrote a book around the 1980s that was called Michelle Remembers. Okay. So, again, about 19 years before the Church of Satan opened their doors. Wow. Okay. What about the Order of the Nine Angles that goes back to the 18th century? Now, they claim to have, this group actually claimed to go back to the 17th century, but no evidence has been put forth on that. So I have to put that one forth. So, anyways, balls over England, 17th century to 2011 had a massive, massive satanic community right up until the census of 2011. Okay. This is known as the Satanic Heartland. And what was interesting is in 2011, 17 members of the community of about 76,000 people jotted down Satanism as their religion. Now, what's interesting to note is since then, this has actually doubled to around 34. Okay. Satanism went unnoticed or undetected until the 2011 census. So that was pretty cool. You're dealing with about 100 years of satanic practices going unnoticed by a culture that was literally Catholicized. Okay, I'm talking Catholics. I'm talking your everyday Christian groups from the 18th century forth. Okay, so I mean, having this much of a satanic presence and you idiots didn't even have a fucking clue, that's saying something, even through, because of the burning times, the witch trials, even. Wow. Okay, now moving on. Turin, Italy, known as the Shroud of Turin. Okay, Italy, nonetheless. The Strega is what we're going for here. Okay. Most thriving satanic community ever noticed throughout the entire world and throughout Europe, nonetheless. Status founded upon a magical triangle known as the Black Magic Powerhouse between San Francisco, London, and Turin. Interesting how that goes, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So, I mean, not only do you have this book and the other two books of people who literally did their homework and traced Satanism back hundreds of thousands of years. So, let's bring up a couple others here. One of the books that I picked up a few years back was called Lucifer Rising. Sin, Devil Worship, and Rock and Roll. Goes all the way back to the 80s. Okay, this book here was actually published around copyright 1999, 2006, and 2010. Interesting book. Surrounds, again, some of the satanic organizations that came after Anton Zandalove, spoke on vampirism, spoke on the COS, the Joy of Satan, rock and roll, practices of the 80s, going into the movies, even, and a little bit of history, but not much. Okay. And then you got to go with the all-time favorite that you see people publishing the most. Okay. And this is the part that is perhaps the most baffling. Okay. The Lords of the Left-Hand Path, forbidden practices of spiritual heresies, from the cult of Set to the Church of Satan. Stephen E. Powers, PhD. Wow. Seriously? The cult of Set came after the Church of Satan. Nobody does their homework anymore. Speaks to Herbert Sloan, speaks to certain historical events like Old Nick, Lucifer, and Enlightenment. Let's see. Let's go with gender politics and imagery. Can you say the TST? What are they doing? Suing everybody left and right for this, that, and whatever. Okay. Satanic immorality, satanic magic in theory and practice, satanic psychodramatic magic, philosophical distillations of High Priest Peter H. Gilmore. Wow. The flourishing of the temple. History of the temple of Set under various high priesthoods. Yeah. The- and then you have the children of Set, Setian anthropology, the Black Flame, the elect of the temple of Set. Wow. Yep. So, why is it that everybody today literally believes that Anton Zandalave was the first to establish a satanic organization? Let's see. You talk to any Satanist of various different ages. Let's go with Alistair Knott, for an example. He has spoken on churches, temples, covens, which basically means, they can come in all shapes and sizes. Okay. But everybody goes with a temple or a church. Interesting. Now, what's interesting to note is that even with this, nobody goes into the covens. Now, how many of these covens did I just name off? About eight, right? Eight, nine. That's roughly four, historical notices, of organizations, of covens throughout the world between the United States through British Columbia, Canada, going all the way over into European countries such as England, Greece, Italy. But what about going into Sweden, the Hexa? Or perhaps let's go with Norse mythology, Loki, the horns, the scepter. Hmm. How about Egyptian mythology? Hmm. Seth, the devil in Egyptian mythology. What about Supe in Inca? Should I go into Aztec, Mayan? How about Chernobog, even Slavic witchcraft? How about the let's go with the dark elves or the black elves, Germanic. Wow, interesting how all these so-called devils exist. Their followers, such as the cult of Anubis or the cult of Artemis. Hmm, interesting. But yet, modern day Satanists are so naive that they don't do their own homework. It's kind of pathetic. That's on them. You consider, like I said, Patricia and Lionel Fanthorpe, they took it all the way back to the Paleolithic era. This is an era that Raymond Buckland spoke on. How witches worshipped the horned god, the hunter. Okay? You even got Pan in Greek, the half goat, half man, worshipped by the nymphs. How about the political texts with Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, the Lord of the Sabbath? the witches' Sabbath. Hmm. And I find it interesting that so many cultures even speak on the Day of the Dead, All Saints' Day, Sabbath of the witches. Even Satanists worship and celebrate today all their abundance on All Hallows Eve, Halloween. But yet, from the 26th to the 6th of November, the 26th of October to November 6th, so many cultures have these holidays. Pagans and Wiccans celebrate theirs either the 21st or the 22nd of the day, of the month, depending if it's a leap year or not. Okay? And they call upon the goddess and the god. Hmm. So why are you so naive? Why are you so naive to believe that Anton LaVey was the first to establish a satanic foundation? Did you forget about the Hellfire Club? Hmm. Here's another one. It's baffling, isn't it? Perhaps it's just because he did it in such a publicized way of shaving his head and declaring himself a Satanist and opening up the first above ground, publicized satanic organization. But he wasn't by far no means the first. There are so many going back through ancient cultures and civilizations associated with Satanism and devil worship. But if you want to live with your head between your in the sandbox, the proverbial sandbox, that's on you. You claim to be about enlightenment. The satanic Satan's age already came. We're in Lucifer's enlightened age. And from what I understand, the age of Aquarius is supposed to begin. Well, if that's the case, then why is it so many people are not educated, not enlightened to do their own homework? I mean, look at Asenath Mason and Bill Duvendek, for an example. They wrote a book. Asenath Mason wrote a book called, what was it called? Lucifer. It was based off Lucifer. I forget the name of it right offhand. I'm sitting right over there, but I can't read the binder because of the way it's sitting. It's basically she took it back to the ancient Greek name, Phosphoros. Interesting. Also, the individuals and how they were worshipped. The Day Star, his brother, going into Ahriman, Horda Mazda, Zoroastrianism. How about Sanskrit? Sons and daughters of Belial, or that of Michael, the archangel, the prince. Hmm. Again, by far no means the first. It's only your truth that you put forth because you don't know any better. But if you want to leave the ego aside and you want to get into history, mythology, and you really want to learn and evolve, perhaps then you will actually do your homework and not believe what you're told. This is why I live my life by two simple rules. Whatever you preach, always back it up with multiple sources and always make yourself available to the public. Know your shit. Step up or step down. Speak up or shut the fuck up. Plain and simple. Have a good day.